So everyone that's just joining, we're going to give it just a second just to see time to session before we start. I think we've got to a number which has stayed for a while, so perhaps we can get started. Hello everyone, welcome to today's webinar. It's about our new wheelchair accessible shared ownership homes at VODION. Thank you for taking the time out to be here today. We hope you'll find it useful and informative. The plan is to talk to you about shared ownership and the homes we've got to offer, plus we've got a couple of little video clips as well for you. There will be a recorded version shared as well, so if you do want to play it back or share it with friends and family, you can. We'd also love to hear from you throughout, so if you do think of any questions, pop them in the Q&A, and hopefully we will have some time at the end to run through some of those for you. So let's start with a couple of introductions. I'm Vicky and I'm the head of new home sales and marketing at Southern Home Ownership. I've been working in shared ownership for about 12 years now. Before that I was an estate agent and have a background in house sales for about 18 years. Hoping that means that I will be equipped enough to give you a bit of insight into shared ownership. And I've also got a special guest with me today. Sophie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Sophie. I'm joining Southern Home Ownership on this webinar, basically to talk about my home buying experience. And and I'll stick around to see if you've got any questions for me at the end as well.
Thank you so much for joining us, especially as it's your daughter's birthday. We're very grateful you've taken the time out to sit with us.
It's my pleasure.
And we look forward, we'll hear from you a little bit later on, as you say. Okay, so introduction to Southern Home Ownership. So we are a subsidiary of a larger organisation, Southern Housing Group. We're a housing association, and we're one of the largest in the south of England, in fact. So we provide more than 30,000 homes for over 77,000 people. Southern Home. Sorry about that. I think my screen muted for some reason. So we're the experts for shared ownership, which in itself has been going for 50 years. So as a product, it's something that is very much tried and tested. We're here to support you into owning your new home. That's our role. And next, we've got a brief animation to show you how shared ownership works. So the reason shared ownership generally is considered a more affordable way of buying is down to the level of deposit that you need, because rather than saving for a deposit on the full market value, you only have to put a deposit down on the percentage of the share that you buy. So that means for a 25% share on an apartment valued at 400,000, your deposit would be based on the £100,000 value of the share. You pay your deposit and get a mortgage for your 100,000, and then on the remaining 300,000, you pay a subsidised rent. Now that's usually valued at about 2.75% of that value. So that works out on the £400,000 example of around £690 a month. And how is that all worked out? But we generally refer you to a mortgage expert with shared ownership experience. So they would be able to assess your individual circumstances because you'll be looking to buy the biggest share that you can afford. You could buy up to 75%. The larger the share that you buy, the lower the rent payment, the larger that your mortgage proportion would be. And so you would take a larger percentage of ownership from the outset. But you can also buy more shares over time as well. And that's called staircasing. So, for example, if you live there for a few years and come to remortgage, your share value may have increased in equity, so you could buy more shares. Another example would be if your career has advanced and your earnings have improved, you could afford to buy more. Maybe you got lucky on a scratch card. Maybe you've got some money that you want to put into it. But staircasing helps you work your way up to buying the remaining shares as well. So you can go all the way to owning 100%. And at that point, it's no longer shared ownership, it is owned by you. However, your first share is always individually tailored to you, as a lender will consider what your earnings are, how much money you owe to other people, what is your borrowing history. It's all very well being able to afford your new home, but if then all you can do is afford to eat beans for the next 3 years, then it's not sustainable. And how does that relate to VODION? So our scheme here has got 144 homes overall. 10 of those homes are designed to be accessible. So this is a really exciting development for us. It's been very well integrated in the local community. It will consist of both residential and commercial. One of the benefits of this scheme as well is that there are also some accessible parking bays available. And for those of you that are looking in London will probably know it's quite unusual for London schemes to have parking. So that's a real bonus of what this one has got to offer. This is a CGI image of what our apartments at VODION will look like, just indicative of keeping it light and airy. So you'll see the design elements with large floor-to-ceiling windows, letting in as much light as possible. Hopefully it's making you feel at home. And again, these are a couple of CGI images indicative of the apartments. Once again, just keeping it light and airy, kitchen colours demonstrate as well, just that kind of keeping it nice and bright as well. And you've got the continuation of the large windows. Our contractor who's building them is anticipating that the first homes will be ready for occupation in spring next year. That's of course subject to there being no further lockdowns or snow, which can often slow things down. But if you were to visit where the site is, you will see that they're really progressing on site here. You can see the hoarding and the buildings going up as well. And yeah, I love these lifestyle images that are on here. Don't they look happy? It must be just a sign of how they're enjoying their new homes. So the design, and we're referring to this as design without limits. So the accessible apartments are defined by what is, within the building circles as an M43 standard. And that basically means it's built with wheelchair users in mind. So when you're buying a wheelchair adapted home, though, we know it's not as easy as just buying off the shelf. And that's the service really we want to offer here to help support you to buy your home. So we can work with an occupational therapist or your own guidance if you know what you're looking for. So whether you have links with the local authority, you're going it alone, we want to help design this home to suit you. So what we're doing is offering the opportunity for you to buy one of these shared ownership homes off plan with us, work with you or your OT, delivering a home that suits your needs within that M43 standard. So it's ready for you to move into on the day that it's completed. But really by doing that, what we want to do is make sure we're delivering you a home which retains the style of the overall development, but still has that balance of your needs as well. So we'll be using the same suppliers, sourcing the same finishes where we can. But with it being designed for you, we will look at what the options are and work with you to design how that will actually be brought to fruition. So, for example, all of our shared ownership homes usually come with flooring, and they usually have carpet in the bedrooms. But if carpets don't suit, that could be changed. Kitchens, if you need a lowered kitchen with a side opening oven, that could be looked at as well. So it's really about us working to make sure we identify what we need. I'd like to bring you in here, Sophie, if I can, because I think people will be really interested to hear a bit more. And I think perhaps, understanding how beneficial something like that would be, and just knowing a little bit about your experience of buying a home with adaptations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so basically, again, hi everyone, I'm Sophie. I am a content creator and I do a lot based around my life and things on social media. I am in a wheelchair full time and I've got a condition called spinal muscular atrophy. So this means that obviously my home would always need to be accessible. The house I live in now is a bungalow, and when we first tried to find one, it was such a struggle because obviously bungalows, they don't tend to be built as much anymore. So we had to get an older one, and they tend to be quite small, and the corridors quite limited in their space and their access to get into other rooms. So eventually we found the one we live in now, and we managed to make it our own. We had to do quite a lot of work on it because it just wasn't suitable for me. So we had to knock walls down, we had to change bedrooms, we had to make a wet room for me because I obviously need that access. And yeah, so we had to do quite a lot ourselves, which is why Southern home ownership, where you could just move into somewhere where it's all ready and made for you, would just be absolutely incredible, because it saves a lot of hard work and heartache and expense and things like that. And how they're working with occupational therapists is brilliant. When I was younger, I walked until I was 13. So it wasn't until then that I really needed more access at my parents' house, and they actually had to transfer their garage into a bedroom for me, at which case we used an occupational therapist so that they could work out which areas we'd need more space in and how it would work sort of with transferring out of my wheelchair and things like that. And that's a lot of what Southern home ownership will do. They'll make sure that the spaces work for you and there's enough space if you do transfer, things like that, space between toilets and sinks and things. So so we did a lot in our bungalow ourselves, which was really good fun and hard work. But yeah, like I say, it's nice we didn't have this option when I looked for bungalows. This is one of the first things I've ever heard of where a company's actually doing this. And so it's amazing, really.
I guess for a lot of the people listening in, this possibly is their first time of their own place, potentially. A lot of first-time buyers tend to use shared ownership. So I guess sort of understanding sort of your experience as well, kind of the first time you did it, having that support from an occupational therapist was beneficial.
Yeah, definitely.
And of course, you sort of being able to then go on to take that next step and really knowing what you need.
Yeah, when you've done it a couple of times, then you start to get to know what works for you and things, and especially because I've been in a wheelchair now since I was 13, so I kind of know what would work for me and the spaces I'd need and things. So I
think now let's talk about Hackney Wick a little bit, and a little bit about the area where these properties are. I think the biggest thing for me, I think the location of this, the surrounding area, it's great for outdoor space. You're right between Victoria Park and the Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park here. And I think, given the last 12 months, it's been really crucial to have that benefit of outdoor space and, for our well-being. So it's definitely a plus. This slide's very enticing. Cakes, coffee, burgers. But I think it's just indicative of, what's to come. But also, within that area, I think you've got a lot of these elements already built in within the sort of Hackney Wick area. It's a location that has a history of printing, publishing. It's very creative and manufacturing. It's been brought up to the 21st century. So you've got a number of startups and co-working spaces in the area, but it's also building on its heritage. It's looking at the people who live there, and not just sort of people who are just starting out, but also for families as well. It's this great base for the city and those wanting that leisure culture. But there's also a great selection of schools and sports activities. So thanks to the Olympic Park, you've got the likes of the Bobby Moore Academy schools and others in this area. So what do we have on offer? We are planning to release prices over the next few weeks, along with brochure and floor plans and site plans. You can see from this slide here that we've got 4 one-bedrooms, 5 two-bedrooms, and 1 three-bedroom apartment. And we are hoping, as I say, to be able to give you that information over the coming weeks. We can talk you through the process, and the first step will be to get you the right price in terms of your finances. So once we've got those prices, and you've had a look at which apartments that you're interested in, we can start talking a bit more detail so that you've got the information you need to make a decision if this is right for you. So one of our mortgage experts would assess your affordability in relation to your preferred plot. Once that is complete, we can support you with any questions or information that you need from us. And then when you're ready, you can make a reservation and instruct a solicitor to get the process underway. What happens then is we set you an exchange deadline, and that's basically a timescale that your reservation agreement lasts for. And during that time, you'll be getting a mortgage. We'll be working with you, whether it's an OT that you've got as well, and actually getting your specification all sorted and bottomed out so that we can get your sale progressed, and you'll then exchange contracts. That makes it a legally binding purchase. And so the idea is that you're buying this off plan. So once you've exchanged, that apartment's yours. We will be getting the contractor to complete all of the works on your new home to the agreed finish that we've set. We snag it, we make sure that it's ready for you to move into and all ready to go on the day of completion. It would be an off-plan purchase, which isn't unusual for new homes. We sell a lot of our homes off-plan, where it does mean that you may not necessarily get to see a fully finished article, which can be a little bit daunting, but you'll see from the presentation, we've been able to produce some really good CGIs, and we've got some floor plans coming out, site plans, so that you can really see what the product is like. And we will, nearer the time, have a marketing suite on site, which you'll be able to visit as well, so you can get a feel for the scheme. And basically, I think that it's really just a case of then, once it's ready to move into, it should be ready to go for you. And as I say, we're hoping from spring next year for the first date for the first apartments to be ready. And if we've not done enough to convince you yet, have a watch of this short video, which is a little bit more about VODION. as this slide suggests, so next steps really are get in touch with us. And if you're yet to register your interest on our website, then please do, because then you won't miss out. So as soon as we've got that information ready to go to that next step, that information will come to you straight away. You can register by visiting our website, www.shosales.co.uk/VODION-AU. Once you're registered with us, you'll receive every update. And as I say, those prices and floor plans will be coming out very, very soon. Question time. So are you ready for this, Sophie?
Yeah, go hit me.
I'm going to have a look. I can see there's a couple of questions coming in, so I'll go into there and I'll go through some of them as I pull them up. So let's have a look. So we've got a question from Jack. Hi, Jack. Thanks so much for this opportunity. I also have SMA. I was wondering about whether there would be any limitations in installing a ceiling track hoist in such homes. So from my point of view, my answer on that would be the benefit of being able to reserve off plan means that we can work with you to make those types of adaptations. So if there are certain things that need to be done to make sure that the ceiling can withhold a ceiling track hoist, then we can do that at this stage. So that's why we're launching them so far in advance, so that we can work with the contractor to get those types of adaptations made. Is that something you've had experience of, Sophie? Have you
when I was at university, I lived in apartments there, some flats, and we managed to get a ceiling hoist in those as well. So, I mean, obviously that was quite a few years ago now. So definitely, if they're being built now, you'd easily be able to adapt them to get the ceiling hoist in there. Yeah.
Thank you, Jack, for that question. Hopefully that's kind of put your mind at rest for that. And let's have a look at what else we've got here. Hi, Sophie. What advice would you give to someone looking for accessible housing?
I think the advice I give is just to be prepared. So before you either look at somewhere or with like the Southern Home Ownership, just get a real feel of what you really need, so that you're going with that list, exactly what you need and what's required, so you can get it all set in stone and set in motion, and then it's the perfect place for you.
And there's another question which kind of links in, I guess, a little bit to that as well, which is there anything you wish you'd known before moving, or any advice that you would give?
I mean, in my personal experience, it's that it can be quite disruptive and quite expensive. So that was just because we had to obviously start from scratch. We were redoing our whole house, our whole bungalow. So with these Southern Home Ownership ones, that's just amazing that you're kind of away from that. So you're not kind of have to be part of the construction and things like that. You're going to be part of the designing of it, but not having to be there and work through all the dust and everything else. And then you'll just turn up and then it'll all be there ready made perfectly for you, which, I mean, that just sounds amazing in my books.
Yeah, excellent. I think it's hopefully that we are hoping that's kind of one of the benefits of what we're able to do here, and being able to make it ready to move straight into, so that you are avoiding, like you say, all that upheaval. Yeah. Moving is a stressful time.
It really is. That's stressful enough.
You're sort of waiting for things to happen. It feels like a really long time. You just want to get in your new home, and being able to know that you can move into it straight away,
Yeah, and then it's personally tailored for you as well, which is even better. So yeah,
exactly. Brilliant. Thank you, Sophie. Matthew had a question from Matthew, which was also about ceiling track hoist. So hopefully we've covered that in the previous answer. Question for me here, which is a bit about shared ownership and staircasing. So question is, when you staircase, do you have to have another deposit? And the answer is no, you don't have to. Now, I'm not a mortgage advisor by any means, but in terms of sort of the staircasing process, there are lots of different factors that will kind of determine how much more you can buy, because potentially if the value of your share has gone up, you've got equity. So you've in effect got an amount of money in there that, you know, is kind of capital, so to speak. So you can use what's already grown within the value of your property. So you don't have to have another deposit. If you've got more that you want to add on top of that, you can. So we'd always say that, you know, when you buy a home, you'll initially get the first mortgage. Some people do 2 years, 3 years, 5 years fixed or what have you. And then when you come to the end of that, just, you know, you can work with whoever, again, who's on our panel of mortgage experts. We can refer you to someone who can guide you through that process and talk you through how to work and see what your options are. But I think the thing with staircases, you always want to try and maximise the opportunities to buy as much as you can at a time. So it's just about, you know, making sure you get the deal that works for you. Now, let's see. Oh, another question here about staircasing. What point can you purchase the full 100%? Well, in effect, anytime after you've made your first purchase. So the initial purchase, you can't buy more than 75%. And the reason for that limit is the idea is that with shared ownership, it's to help you to afford a home that you wouldn't necessarily be able to do otherwise. And if you could purchase more than 75%, you're likely to be able to buy on the open market. So shared ownership is designed to help you buy when you couldn't normally afford to do that. But from the moment that you've then completed, we've had it in the past, and customers, you know, circumstances can change quite quickly once you've moved. And if that's the case, we've had people staircasing within the first year, but it's not a limitation that we would set in terms of, you know, when you can buy the full 100%. That's down to you, and you just let us, you contact our sales services team to do that process when it works. Oh, another question from Jazz on this, for me here, which is about restrictions on pets and support animals. And I think often, yeah, and this is a difficult one because notoriously often the issue is having pets in apartment buildings, in terms of whether there's a nuisance. So often there are restrictions, but it is different when it comes to support animals. So if you do have a support animal, then what we would normally do is just get you to confirm the details of that, and we give you written approval at the outset, so that you've got that confirmation that that's okay. Next question here, again from Matthew, which is about the sort of salary a person will need to live at VODION. So it will, of course, depend on the prices once we've got those prices confirmed. Salary-wise, it's really hard to set a minimum amount as to what you have to be earning. And what we'll do, we can look at some guidance when we've got that pricing to give you an idea of what that would be. But the reason it varies so much is because it really depends on your individual situation. Because it depends on how much deposit you've got. And they will look at how much you owe to other people. So if you've got loans or credit cards outstanding, have you got a vehicle on a hire purchase agreement or a lease agreement? So anything like that, any sort of costs, regular costs that you might have as well. So all of that they take into consideration when your sort of circumstances are assessed. So we can give you an idea, because we can work out a rough idea of, you know, a multiple of, you know, an income level to say, you know, roughly it would be in that figure. But we'd always recommend that you speak to a mortgage expert, just so that they can give you sort of real clarity on what you'd likely be able to afford as kind of that first purchase, just so you've got that comfort. Gone are the days when we used to be able to say it's 3 times or 5 times your salary. It's all changed now, but all for the better. You know, it's all about making sure that, you know, if there's an interest rate rise, or, you know, something that means that they're working out that you can still afford to pay for your home. Okay. Back to the questions again. So I've got a question here from Sally. This is great and much needed. Thank you, Sally. Pleased that we're able to help. Can I ask, with the marketing suite, will that be accessible? The reason I ask is many aren't, so hoping this is. yes, so we've confirmed with our contractor that the marketing suite will be accessible. So they're making sure that they're getting everything in place so that we can have full access to that marketing suite. So things that they don't normally do are, we don't normally get the lifts commissioned so early on in a building, but they're doing that for us. So they're making the adjustments so that we can accommodate that. There we go. Oh, got another question about pets. I think we've sort of covered that in terms of the previous question. And another question from Jazz: is this the only development with wheelchair accessible homes, or are you planning more? Well, yes, we are planning more. So we have got a few more schemes that will be coming up over the next few years with some wheelchair accessible homes. So we're looking to do the same sort of format as we've done with this scheme over those as well. They're early days, some of those schemes. We're probably talking later on, sort of 2023, maybe 2024 for some of those. So I guess it depends on what kind of time frame that you're looking to move. There we go. So that's all of our questions that I've got in the forum. I don't know if I'll give everyone a second to, if there is any more that do want to come in there. Is there anything more, Sophie, that you think just might be anything that you've sort of gleaned from the presentation that might be useful for people, or anything you wanted to add to those questions that I've answered?
I mean, like you said, it's I know you guys are just going over and above, really. We're, as a wheelchair user, we're not used to things being like accessible for us, and so this is just an incredible opportunity, really. And yeah, I feel really proud to be sort of part of it and to be able to shout it from the rooftops. So, and I can't wait to come and visit one, definitely.
Yeah, we'll have you down there, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I can't wait to see them. They sound incredible.
Yeah, well, we're hoping to get the marketing suite probably early summer, maybe, and I think it will be. So fingers crossed that's all on in line. They're doing really well on the site. You know, the program is kind of on track. So hopefully it won't be too long until we can get down there and start actually giving people a real idea of.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah. You know, I think it's very difficult. We've sort of historically we've had wheelchair homes for ownership, and I think we've just perhaps not pitched it in the right way to people, and they end up, you know, they don't get sold, you know, and I think there are so many people that would, you know, fantastically benefit from this. And I think
definitely
what we're doing with the element to work with sort of an occupational therapist or kind of design it with you is something that doesn't seem to happen. And I'm hoping that that means that we can sort of, you know, people will be interested and more inclined to go down that route because they haven't got that stress of having to worry about doing it all yourself,
yeah,
which you can, I'm sure, you know.
Yeah, I know all about that.
Yeah. Excellent. Oh, question from Matthew's just popped in. So service charges to pay in addition to rent. So yes, there will be a service charge, which we'll have that information to share with you as well. Once we start releasing the prices, we'll get that information, and that will cover anything sort of to do with the communal services. So as it is within an apartment building, there will be things that will be covered with that, but we will share that information. All of that also gets put into the assessment process. So when the mortgage people are looking at your affordability, that service charge is also factored in. So they're basically looking to make sure that when you're paying your service charge, the rent, mortgage, that they're not going to exceed, they're aiming for it not to exceed 45% of your income. So as I say, that you're not eating beans for the first 3 years that you're living there. You know, it's all about making it sustainable, not just that you can afford it. And, you know, shared ownership isn't about it being a struggle. So it will be, they'll make sure that it's done comfortably for you. And there we go. And a question, another one's just come in regarding the inclusion of an occupational therapist. Will that need to be an OT from our local area where we live, or in this case, whichever local authority it will be in Hackney Wick? It's actually, you know, it's completely driven by you. So some people already have a connection with an OT within an area. We have no limitations on who you work with, you know, from our point of view. If you haven't worked with an OT before and you don't know what it is that you're looking for, we can put you in contact with an OT. So Southern Housing Group, as I mentioned, we have, you know, we have 77,000 residents, and there are residents with needs, and we are used to working with occupational therapists, and we'll be able to point you in the direction of someone that you could work with to help support you with that. So, you know, if your hurdle is that you don't know where to start with it, come and talk to us about it, because we can help support you in that direction. So we did contact one of the companies that we know that the group have worked with in the past to say, you know, we're looking at doing this. If we do have people that need support, can you help us? And they were more than happy with that. But likewise, if it is a case of, you know, if you've already got contacts within the local authority for this area, which would be Tower Hamlets, not a problem either. So, you know, it really is going to be, you know, we'll kind of work with you and help you out with that based on whatever you need. Okay, and just a lovely comment from Sally at the end, just to say thank you so much, Vicky, and really great to hear from you, Sophie. I think it's good to have you here, Sophie, I think, because, you know, to have your experience and to kind of have the opportunity to hear what you've been through and sort of how it could have worked for you in the past. I'm not an expert when it comes to providing accessible homes, and, you know, we want to help people get in the right direction, give them the information. Nice to have an independent view of that.
Oh, thank you. No, it's been a pleasure.
Excellent. I think we've got to the end of our questions. We're also running out of time. I'm very aware we said we finished about half an hour, 40 minutes. So thank you so much, everybody, for your questions. It's really good to have had everyone sort of joining in as well. So thank you so much. And if you have got any other questions that come to mind afterwards, use our contact details, drop us a line, and we're happy to answer them. And, you know, we even if, I guess, if there's something for you, Sophie, that people want to, they've got your details on social media, I'm sure. But,
yeah,
you know,
contact me on Instagram.
We're happy to pass on that information as well, I guess. So do let us know. Yes, so all that remains is for me to say thank you. Big thank you to you all for joining. A very big thank you to you, Sophie, as well, especially on your daughter's first birthday. So we're very privileged.
Thank you.
And definitely we'll be in touch for you to come to our marketing suite later.
Yes, definitely. I can't wait.
But yeah, thank you very much, everyone. Have a really good day and enjoy the Easter break.
Thank you.
Thank you.